The world rarely sees the quiet ones. The ones who work behind the curtain, who speak softly, who wear worn shoes and go home to modest dinners. And yet, sometimes, just sometimes, it's one of these quiet souls who ends up changing everything. The morning was unusually cold for early March in New Jersey. The wind rushed between the high-rise buildings like it had somewhere important to be. Inside the Lincoln Medical Center, Janitor Manuel Rosario zipped up his faded navy jumpsuit and pushed his mop bucket through the sliding glass doors of the emergency wing. He had worked there for 27 years. To most people, he was invisible. The doctors barely nodded. Nurses gave him a half-smile when they passed. Only a few called him by his name. But Manuel didn't mind. He believed in the dignity of his work. He believed that no job was too small when it served humanity. Each floor he cleaned was a surface someone might lie on in their worst moment. Each trash bin he emptied carried sorrow, hope, sometimes miracles. And Manuel carried his own miracle in his wallet, a picture of his late wife, Julia, smiling beneath a magnolia tree in Puerto Rico. She had died of cancer 7 years earlier, and not a day passed that he didn't whisper to her before sunrise, before he walked out to catch the 5:30 bus. That day started like any other, mop, wipe, repeat. But at 11:23 a.m., everything changed. A commotion stirred near the front lobby. A young boy, barely 5, was screaming, clutching his chest. His mother, frantic and shaking, kept repeating, "He can't breathe. Please, help him." The receptionist, flustered and panicking, pressed the emergency call button. But the ER was already full, and no one had responded yet. Manuel, who had just come from the corridor, dropped his mop. He didn't hesitate. With surprising speed, he rushed to the boy, gently lowering him to the floor. He checked the boy's face, it was turning blue. "Epinephrine," Manuel muttered under his breath. He had seen this before, once with a nurse who had collapsed in the break room years ago. Anaphylactic shock. People screamed for help. Phones dialed security. But Manuel didn't wait. He tore down the hall and pushed open a closet marked, "Emergency Equipment." It was strictly off-limits for janitorial staff. But rules didn't matter when a child was dying. He grabbed the EpiPen from the case, sprinted back, and without thinking twice, administered it to the boy's thigh. Seconds passed like hours. Then, gasp. The boy's eyes opened, wide and watery. He began to sob. His mother fell to her knees, hugging him so tightly Manuel thought she might break him. Doctors rushed in seconds later. There was confusion, protocol questions, accusations, and then awe. "Who gave him the shot?" one asked. The receptionist pointed, still trembling. "He did, the janitor." Manuel quietly stepped back, ready to be fired. But something else happened. The boy's mother, Sarah Daniels, was an investigative journalist for a national news network. That evening, she aired the story live on primetime. "The janitor who saved my son." She didn't just tell the story, she told the world who Manuel was. She spoke of his humility, his decades of service, and how the man most people didn't see had been the only one to act when it mattered most. The segment went viral. By morning, hundreds of thousands had watched. People flooded the hospital with flowers, letters, and donations. News trucks lined the street. But for Manuel, none of it mattered. He didn't do it for applause. He did it because he remembered a moment 12 years ago when Julia collapsed on the kitchen floor and no one arrived in time. He made a silent promise that day, no one else should have to feel what he felt. A week later, the hospital held a press conference. The board of directors, the mayor of Newark, and even the state governor attended. They offered Manuel a new role. Community response liaison, with full benefits, triple his salary, and a permanent seat on the hospital safety advisory board. He was stunned. At the podium, Manuel didn't speak long. "I am not a hero," he said, voice shaking. "I just didn't want a mother to lose her child. That's all." But that wasn't all. Months later, inspired by Manuel's story, the state passed new regulations requiring emergency training for all hospital staff, janitorial, kitchen, security included. Over 17,000 workers across the East Coast gained certification that year. Within the first 6 months, 42 lives were saved by non-medical personnel. Manuel had started a ripple effect. One quiet janitor. One moment of courage. One act of compassion. He changed policy. He saved lives. And he reminded the world that kindness has no rank. That sometimes, the people we overlook hold the strongest hearts. Epilogue. Years later, a bronze plaque was mounted in the Lincoln Medical Center lobby. It read, "In honor of Manuel Rosario, a true servant of humanity." Each morning, new staff walk by it, many not knowing the full story. But those who do, they carry his legacy forward, with empathy, with humility, with action. And in a small apartment just outside the city, an old man still wakes before dawn. He still whispers to a photo beneath a magnolia tree. And then, he walks out with quiet steps, ready, always ready, to make the world a little kinder.